Up until just last night, my wife and I were actually dreading having a conversation with our 7-year-old daughter. We have been planning to take her for her 8th birthday next month to Walt Disney World. We have a fun tradition in our family that each of our kids, we try to make their birthdays as special as possible, and each of them gets what we call an extra special birthday just with mommy and daddy. And coming up is our oldest daughter, Ashley's special birthday. And so for her 8th birthday, as I mentioned, we have been planning on taking her to Walt Disney World. Well, we've been dreading having this conversation with her because we don't know if they're still going to be closed. I mean, they've said that they're going to reopen April 1st, and her birthday is April 29th. But as, of course, everybody knows, there's a lot of things still up in the air. And so we have been wondering, okay, are we actually going to be able to take her on this trip that we've been planning and talking about for a long, long time? And she's been looking forward to it for so long. And we finally just sat her down and said, you know, everything that's going on right now, you know that there's a lot of things outside of our control. There is a possibility that we may not be able to go for your birthday, and so we'll still take you as a little bit later on in the year after they've opened. But what would happen if they're still closed on your birthday itself? And thankfully, she was super cool about it. And she goes, "Oh, okay, well, then I would get 2 birthday celebrations. And so, if that's the case, on my birthday itself, I want to go to Nickelmania. It's this local arcade, Nickel Arcade by our house." And it made us think about the principle of how to get through a potential crisis, or how to get through something really difficult when there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. And it has to do with preparing for the worst but expecting the best. Preparing for the worst but expecting the best. There are actually 2 different kinds of fears. There is, of course, the illogical fear, and that's when there's no logical basis to be afraid of something. So the definition of fear is the anticipation of discomfort. And a lot of people have fears about starting a business or quitting their jobs or asking somebody out or whatever it is, even though there's no logical basis for that fear because they've never expected it. They've never experienced it before. Does that make sense? But then there's the logical fear, and this is mostly having to do with the unknown. And so, well, oh gosh, what happens if we run out of toilet paper at our house, and what happens if we're not prepared? And the way to get through those logical fears, as I mentioned, is simply having a plan. The reason why something seems scary is because that discomfort comes from not being prepared. I once heard someone say that there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. Does that make sense? People that live in parts of the world where temperatures are extreme, and so there are some parts of the world where it's basically winter almost the entire year round, and it gets down to very, very low temperatures, many, many degrees below zero, and they live there. And I mean, if they were to take a cup of water outside and they were to throw it up in the air, it would freeze instantly. I've seen videos about this. It's really interesting. But they love it there. And it's because they are prepared to handle those winters. They have the right clothing, they have the right supplies that they need, and so every single winter they have exactly what they need, and they still are able to remain very, very comfortable. And like I said, people that live there absolutely love it. And so how can you prepare for the worst but still expect the best? It's all about having a plan. In this case with our daughter, it was, okay, what will happen if we can't end up taking her to Walt Disney World for her 8th birthday? We now have a plan. We'll take you here instead, and then later on in the year, once it reopens, then we'll take our trip then. The purpose of that, though, is, again, having a plan so that you know what to do if the worst happens, but not expecting the worst. Have you ever noticed that a lot of times what we expect to happen tends to happen, and so people that expect to get sick, usually the ones that get sick, the people that expect to remain healthy, usually tend to stay healthy. Now, obviously, again, that doesn't mean that you don't plan for the worst. You don't, put contingencies in place. It simply means that after you've put those contingencies in place, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's like, okay, if I get sick, this is what I'll do. I can handle that. Once your brain realizes, oh, we have a way to be able to handle that, it can stop fearing, and you then can expect the best. And so we're still expecting to be able to take her to Walt Disney World. We purchased tickets, we've booked our fast passes, we've booked our restaurant reservations, and so we're still focusing on what we do want to happen. Whenever we expect something, the subconscious mind usually goes to work looking for reasons why that needs to happen, and it usually begins to manifest and becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so my invitation to you is to help other people to get through this chaotic time by having a plan in place. What will we do just in case the worst happens, but still expecting the best? If you expect the worst, usually you're going to experience the worst. But if you plan for the worst, that way, again, you have those contingencies in place, but then expect the best, you can obliterate fear and you can create the best possible outcome. As always, love you much.